Hey there, folks. So, last episode we fixed up the couple of mistakes I had in the code for setting the skeletal mesh on the characters. And I also, at the end of the last episode, went through, fixed up the animation blueprint for the mesh we were using. I was going to quickly show that because I know I also mentioned I was going to tweak a couple of the last little things that I hadn't put on there yet, specifically the jump animation. There is some oddities in here. It's downside of the way I'm using the old method versus the new method. Doesn't quite line up, the IK and control rig and that. But in here you can see I've got jump. Apparently I left my phone on again. We have jump in air and land. This is pretty much the exact same as old school animation blueprints. Again, as I said, I'm not very big on... Oh, I'll have to look into these animation states. One of these, it's not... Oh, okay. Don't look into those. But anyway, so I got that set up. The other thing I did, and that is basically, it's something I'm going to be working on between episodes just because it's covering the same thing multiple times, and I don't want to do that. I did some digging, and even though, where are we here? Mega post-apocalyptic characters, we do have a lot of stuff here. The problem I have is it's all, let me just filter this down to skeletal mesh. It's all segments, and it's going to be really hard to have a player character underneath that, or just a character, humanoid, underneath all of this, and be able to switch things out and not have sort of missing portions. Like you could have, let me just see if I can find something. Well, thankfully these are all sleeved, but you may not be wearing gloves on the character, but this set only comes with gloves. So what I did is I dug through and found one of my other asset store assets. For the observant of you who may have noticed, it's this man folder. And you can see this guy is a little more segmented. And specifically what I'm looking for is this mesh, where it's the full human. And from there, it's going to allow to attach other mesh to it easier and things like that. However, there is one issue I found with that, and just go here, go to our third person, open that up, and then go to our viewport, and you can see here, if I grab what is our base mesh, our head, let me just go back and grab, I think parts is the only one. No, it is full. Yeah, he's in full. Okay. And then we go back to our blueprint here, and if we set him, you can see he's slightly disproportioned in comparison. So there is going to be some work I need to do off camera to go through and tweak these. And because they are specific to assets I'm using, I want to not record that because you may not have these assets. It is very unique. But what I'm going to be doing, where's our torso mesh here, just so you can see, I'm going to be going into, say, Blender, and just, I don't want to scale that up, I'm going to leave that one. Actually, but anyways, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to probably go into something like Blender, and I'm just going to be rescaling the mesh so that they cover properly, and things like that, because as you can see here, see if we move that over ever so slightly, you can see we can't even reposition it. So what I'm going to do, though, that's something I'm going to do off camera, just because there is a lot of work there. It's very tedious, time consuming, and not going to achieve much in the way of moving the project forward for at least anyone who's following along. I do understand this is 5 minutes of me just driveling on about things, but I wanted to cover that because it's something I'm going to be doing off camera. The other thing I want to do quickly is first person camera. We want to move that to a new position. And I hate how that works when it's attached. Okay, what do we move that? So I'm going to set that to 0 and that one to 0. It should pull it forward. So just quickly there, I just moved the camera forward a bit so we can take a look and see, are we outside of our head now? Yes, that's the issue we had where the deer's missing bite sphere. Yeah, so here you can see it's obviously not the best, but we were getting what most people would call a true first-person perspective. You can go look down, see yourself, see your shadow. You can see there's some quirks there when it comes to the jump state. I thought I had fixed that, but obviously not. Let's quickly switch over to third person to see if that makes it a difference, because I swore I fixed that. The wolf's chasing the deer. Okay, so that's working there. It is working now, so... Oh, no, there we go, it's not. So I'm also going to, obviously in my free time, I'm going to be digging more into the new animation blueprint process, the control rig, the way things were done using the mannequin. But for the time being, just so we can start moving things forward, what I'm going to be doing, go back to our third-person blueprint here. Because we have all these different components, I'm going to just be setting this back to Manny. Let me just pull that up here. Manny, set that back. And you can see there's going to be... Actually, I might not. Let's see how badly does this break all of those other mesh, because we're changing our skeleton. Oh, not too bad. Oh no, a lot of stuff is really jank. So this is something you guys may stumble across in your own projects. You're going to have a problem where you have multiple mesh like that you want to try and use, but they don't work together. That's something you're going to run into. So with that, I'm going to revert that back, where you're going to need to basically work on acquiring, however that be, make it yourself, hire someone, find an asset on the marketplace that is genuinely a all-inclusive, includes the base skin mesh and then all the different equipment you want to go on. And that's where, unfortunately, working from multiple different asset store assets, it's just not going to work. So that's also something I'm going to have to try and do in the background, is sort it out so I have a singular setup. And that could just be I try to actually make my own models, but I suck at modeling. Either way, now that we've got that done, we do want to actually move things forward. And I realize I've just spent 8 minutes talking about this. So first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to get rid of all of the stuff we put in the last episode. Actually, I'm just going to break that connector so we can't accidentally do it. And drag all of this out of the way. Comment it, dev testing equipment. And I'm going to change that color to red. Okay, so move that out of the way. So anyways, what we need to do is we need to start working on, let me just pull this over, open up our, oh actually let's go harvest a tree so I can pick that up. And it's in our inventory. So we need to set it up so that our inventory, oh, we lost the icon. So anyways, going back to what I was saying, we need to go through and set it up so that we can go through and have something in our inventory that we can use to, log broke, equip. So there is a few things at a code level we're going to want to do for that. So looking back in Visual Studio, we have this function right here, which is part of our item base, get UI data. And that returns, obviously, the index we're passing in, the item name, description, use text, is usable, the icon, and the current stack size. We also want to include another variable which is equippable. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to grab this entire line, and yes, I understand the editor is still running right now. I'm going to grab this entire line. I'm going to go to our equippable item base header, and this is a public function, but we're going to go through and make this an override, so that what this is going to do is this will, I've got that in the wrong plate, override, put that in entirely the wrong place because I've got this as a header item. Does not override base class. Yes, because this isn't returning any additional information. Well, we need to look at this struct. In here you can see a couple of things. So I'm going to grab this property. I'm going to just clear out that tooltip actually for now because we're going to use this again. Bool B is equippable equals false. We want that to be false by default. And then I'm going to add another one. Bool B is equipped equals false. And what I also want to do here, you'll notice we have a constructor. I'm going to take this constructor, duplicate it, and then add in const bool reference be equippable. It's a double P. I figured that out a couple episodes back. And we're going to leave it at that. And then at the bottom here, we're just going to go B is equippable equals be equippable. And I have two cases of pretty much the same word. So there we go. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can go back to our engine base class. And in here, we should just be able to add true, and this will override that function. Oh, no, it won't, because I believe we need virtual in the front. There we go. So we can't add, and I've mentioned this before, but we can't add the U function blueprint callable blueprint pure because this specific reference to this function, where's it going to let me now? Maybe it will. Anyways, with that, I'm going to close out of the editor here quickly. I'm going to save that, even though I didn't make any real changes. And then, once this finishes, anyways, so going back to explaining what this is for while I wait for the editor to shut everything down. These two new variables, this is basically one so we can use it for our UI to add a button. And then this one is so we can flip-flop the text on that button. And potentially, and this is just for the purpose of our very janky inventory UI right now. We're going to say equip. And if it is equipped, we'll have the text say unequipped. And if it isn't, it will say equipped or equip. So now that's done, we're going to run a quick build. And yes, that's actually something I wanted to talk about, and I'll do that while this builds. Things like the UI and everything that right now at this stage look really, really janky. That's how it should be at the early stages of things. Like I know I've used this analogy before. Writing code for any sort of program is... Oh, what failed? Oh, so IntelliSense wasn't throwing, so I was right. It can't have that. So anyways, writing any sort of program through code, you need to treat it like building a house. You build your foundations, then you throw up your walls, then you put on your roof. Sorry, not even the walls itself, but the framing, your roof. And then you start worrying about like insulating and wrapping, and putting on the walls and wrapping for the outside, and then drywall, mud, paint, all of that. You do that in a specific order. And the house right at the start looks like crap because of it, because it's all just this hodgepodge. You can't really see things for what they're going to be. And that's also very similar to how code is written. You don't worry about making it look super pretty right at the start, because you could have foundational code in there that has to change, that then changes how it visually looks. So that's why like the player inventory screen looks really, really janky right now, because, well, I'm not going to put a ton of effort into a UI system for the inventory that I'm going to have to change, because ultimately I want drag and drop. Like I don't want buttons on each item to equip, unequip, things like that, because it's not intuitive. But at the same time, I don't want to put all of that effort into making that UI look pretty or look good at this early stage, because I don't even know if my inventory system is solidified yet. I don't know if my equipment system is solidified yet. So why am I going to spend time to create an equipment grid for, where's our, for what, 7 items? Well, technically 8, because left hand, right hand, for 8 items, when maybe I'm going to have 15, maybe I'm going to have 6. So there's going to be points where you need to like just leave things ugly. And right now, this is still one of those points where things need to be left ugly. But anyway, so now with that, let's take a look at our items, actually. So project, blueprints, items. Let's create a new folder in here. New folder, clothing. Clothing item base, select that, and this is going to be trying to think what to use here. BP mouse mask 01. We'll just do that. Save that. I'm going to open that up. And then, because I just need a default editor for this, I'm going to close it and reopen it so we get this basic default screen. Now we need to go through and sort out a couple of other things there. So first things first, we're going to go in mesh parts, filter down to skeletal. I'm going to use that and just copy that into our character mesh item. Move that out of the screen for now. Next thing I'm going to do is open this up. Opens up as this, and then create asset. Well, can't really do anything there. It's over here on the right. I don't know why make static mesh doesn't fall into the create asset side of things, but it's its own dedicated thing. So we're going to make a static mesh. Actually, no, I'm going to keep that in a relevant folder. No. So this is something that's going to be down to how your project wants to do it. Your organization. Item world mesh. And I've mentioned this before. SM mouse mask 01. And this is just 01 because it's the first. I might do more, I might not. Got to figure out what I want to do there. But as I was saying, regarding project organization, we've got the mesh, item world mesh, clothing, and that's going to be down to how your project wants to do it. So now that we've got that, though, if we go take a look at our folder structure here, clothing, remove that filter, we can see we now have that mesh. I'm going to save that. It has 0 collision primitives. I'm going to leave that for now, but just going to make sure that's selected, and we're going to go back to our data sheet here, and I'm going to open this up. So there's our world mesh, item name mouse mask, item description a mask of a mouse, pickup text pick up. Use text would be equip. Is usable, yes. Icon, I'm going to just give it that for now. Max stack size 1. Resource tags, I'm not going to add any. Item weight is 1. We'll just leave that as default. Actually, now let's just quickly check. Clothing, consumable, junk, log. Why did it not want to render that? Oh well. So now that we've got that, let's go take a quick look at our UI logic. And it opens up on the left. Okay, so in here you can see we have use and drop. Well, we need to add a modification for this use button. So we're going to go to our graph, event construct, clean this up a little bit so I can see where everything's going. Item name, okay, use button text, that would be this one here. So what we need to do is do a select, drag this up, push this into that text there, and we're going to use the is equippable as this wildcard. I'm going to duplicate this one, and we're going to use the is equipped as the next wildcard. Put this into the true. So if it is not equipped, we want this to say equip, and if it is equipped, we want it to say unequip. Okay, so that should sort out creating that base widget. Now, clicking the on use button, that is where we need to also have some changes here. So we'll move this, bring it over, give me the option, yeah, as pin, don't need use text. That one there, and we'll get rid of usable. And then what I'm actually going to do here is, as a protection, or we're going to add an or boolean if it is usable or equipable. Either of those will enable the button. All right, so let's clean this up some more. You'll notice I am incredibly messy when it comes to blueprints. I really need to get better at cleaning these up, but we're already at 23 minutes. This episode's going to be a two-parter. But anyway, so now that we've got that, what we want to do is add a branch. And if it is equipable, we're going to go down a different branch of code. Well, now you can see here we're calling something on our parent, which is use item and index. Well, that's our inventory HUD. So I'm going to pull that up. That's this one here. I hate how it does this. So in here, if we go to our graph, refresh inventory widget function, all of this, what we want to do is add a new function, which is equip item at index. Now, first of all, this is not going to correctly set anything that's currently equipped. That'll be something we'll cover next episode. But for inputs on this, we want to obviously have IDX, and we want to have that as an integer, and we also want to be equip, and that is to say, yes, we are actually going to be equipping it. So now that we've got that, we're going to go back to our inventory item. Excuse me. We are going to, off our parent, equip. Helps if I spell equip right. Equip item at index. We are going to pass in the index, and then actually on here we do need is equipped. excuse me. That's the basics for our UI there. So the next part is going to be here in our HUD. Well, let's take a look at what we have for some of our other items. Use item at index. So we are from our inventory at the index, we're calling the use item at index. Well, this means we're going to need actually this should be refresh inventory widget no matter what. We need to add a function for equip item at index. And this is where the index, and the reason why we made these variables, go back to character, equip item, why we made this a public one, because we're going to pass all of this information through. So what we need to do on our inventory component, and actually after this is where we're going to probably wrap things up, component, inventory component, we're going to go down here and you can see we have use item at index, drop item at index. We're going to add in a new view function, bool equip item at index. And this is going to be a const int index. And we're also going to add a const bool reference of b equip. And this b equip, as I mentioned, is for being able to take the item off. Quick action, create that. Now, before I hop out of things, actually, I do realize here in our inventory widget, we are just passing in its current state. If it is equipped, we want to say false. So this is an issue I had the other episode, not bool. I forgot to include that. So now that we've got that in place, let's clean this up a little bit. I'll do that off camera. I'm not going to waste more time on that. So with that, we now have equip item at index, use item at index, and we are also going to be leaving our drop item at index or drop stack at index. We don't need to do anything there. So back to our code. Let's open up our inventory component source file. It's already open. What am I doing? So here we have use item at index. Well, we're going to just copy this whole thing here because that's where it's failed. So inventory contents at index, get default object. That's what we want. I believe that's what we want. Trying to think here. My brain doesn't want to work. Because you are... Oh, it's been a while since I've worked on this. UItem base. Okay, so... Actually, yes, I remember what I needed to do here. So we want if cast... No, sorry. We need to add a header in here as well. Okay, so if as equip item equals cast and then we want I believe that is the one with the default object. And we need an extra one of those, I think. Okay, so that's the open close, that's the cast, that's the if. Yeah. Okay, so what this is doing, and this is actually where I'm going to end things off. I don't like ending it in the middle of something, but we're already at that 30-minute mark, and there's quite a bit more work on this. So works is a bit good place to cut. But what we're doing here is we're going through and we're basically saying, okay, we have this item in the inventory. We need it as an equipable item. And then, actually, I'll ATF character, equip item as equip, get slot as equip, get character. Okay, so this is actually where I'm going to end it off. So what we've done here, and this is where we'll continue on with the next episode, is we've gone through, we're getting that item information out of the index. We are assuming, well, making sure it actually can be cast to an equipable item, because our inventory itself is a tier array of subclasses of the U item base, which the equippable item is a subclass. It's a child derived class. So from that, we can use that to cast, hopefully successfully, as a, equipable item. In this case, it's particularly a clothing item, but it's equippable, which is, the clothing is derived from equippable, and equippable has all that information we need, so we're not worried about that. And we're just passing through its slot and the mesh. And in this case, that should update our player character. Now, there's obviously more we need to do. We still need to finish creating the world pickup for this and a few other things. But as I said, this is where I'm going to end the episode. I'm trying to keep things down to 30 minutes or less, just because, well, it's YouTube. Apparently it's 30 minutes or 8 hours are the 2 points. Anything between that, not as popular. But anyways, folks, so thank you for watching. As always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, or hop over onto the Discord and ask there. I respond to comments or questions on Discord as quickly as possible, basically as soon as I notice them. But again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.